All right, these are some fun and interesting notes. We're going to take a look at how our noses work, how we smell things, and what kinds of things we actually can smell and why. So let's take a look. All right, in our first question, we're going to deal with how we smell certain substances. Okay, and this is a very basic explanation of how we smell things because it gets a lot more complicated with the different types of receptors and stuff like that. But this is a very just kind of simplistic view of how we smell things. All right, the first thing that has to happen when we smell something is that the molecules that we're smelling need to make what's called a phase change. Remember phases from elementary school, solid, liquid, gas, right? So in order to get into our nose, the molecules have to make a phase change into the gas state. Okay, so they have to, be little gas particles to get up into our nose. Our nose cannot smell liquids. It can't smell, liquid in a liquid state. It can't smell, solids in a solid state. If you shove a marble up your nose, you can't smell it. So molecules must make a phase change into the gas state just to get into our nose. Okay, and so what that means is that the individual atoms within a molecule don't break apart. Okay, it's the molecules stay together. It's just those intermolecular forces that we talked about in the last unit that are breaking apart. Remember, intermolecular forces are the attraction between the molecules. Okay, so that's what breaks apart. So if we take a look down here in this first example down here, we've got different molecules here. These are the intermolecular forces right here. So this is what's breaking apart. Okay, so these attractions between the molecules are breaking apart, but it's not the bonds. Okay, it's not the bonds that are breaking apart. So that you smell individual atoms. It's actually you're smelling whole molecules that are not attracted to each other anymore. Okay, so again, if we take a look at this example, if these are two, big molecules that are, usually attracted together in a liquid or a solid form, and they get enough energy to break apart into the gas phase, it's, they stay intact as an entire molecule, and the entire molecule goes up your nose. It's not these, individual little atoms that are breaking apart, but the entire molecule. All right, so that's the first step. The second part to smell is the part that's super simplified, but basically your nose has protein receptors in it, with this roughly the same shape as the functional groups within the molecules. So when a molecule docks at this receptor site, it sends a signal to your brain and you interpret it as a specific smell. Okay, so for example, if we take a look at this picture, we have somebody smelling a flower, right? The aromatic substances or those molecules will become a gas state. It'll go up the nose, and here's a kind of an amplified version of this. They'll have different receptors here in your nose, and the ones that pick up these aromatic scents are going to then send a signal via your olfactory nerve, okay, to your brain. All right, and your brain interprets it as a specific smell. So that's basically how our nose works. So what we're going to talk about in the last question of these notes is what kinds of substances we can smell. In our last unit, I talked about how when we were talking about the difference between polar and nonpolar molecules, that we could smell polar molecules but not nonpolar molecules. So I'm going to give just a little bit more explanation in this next question in these notes, which is what kinds of substances can we smell? All right, so our nose is lined with a water-based mucus, okay? And if it's water-based, water, remember, is a polar substance. So, all inside our nose right here is a water-based mucus. So if it's water-based and water is polar, we know from the like dissolves like rule that only polar molecules will be able to dissolve through this mucus to get to the receptors. Okay, so that's why we can't smell nonpolar ones, because the nonpolar ones won't be able to dissolve through the polar water-based mucus. So thus we can only smell polar molecules. However, there are obviously some exceptions to the nonpolar ones. If the nonpolar ones are so big that they can just barge right through the mucus and hit a receptor, then obviously we'll be able to smell it. Okay, but other small nonpolar molecules we will not be able to smell because they can't dissolve through that mucus layer. So that's why we can smell polar ones, but not nonpolar ones, like I was talking about last unit. All right, so we'll see you tomorrow in class, and that's the end of these notes.